Turn it on.
So the title of my meditation is Letting Jesus Instruct Our Lives. So if you guys could turn to Luke 5. Luke 5, 1 through 11. Alright, so it says, So it was as the multitude pressed about him to hear the word of God, that he stood by the lake of Gennesaret, and saw two boats standing by the lake. But the fishermen had gone from them, and were washing their nets. But they had got into one of the boats, which was Simon's, and asked him to put out a little from the land. And he sat down and taught the multitude from the boat. When he had stopped speaking, he said to Simon, Launch out into the deep, and let down your nets for a catch. But Simon answered and said to him, Master, we have toiled all night and caught nothing. Nevertheless, at your word, I will let down the nets. And when they had done this, they caught a great number of fish, and their net was breaking. So they signaled to their partners in the other boat to come and help them. And they came and filled both boats, so they began to sink. When Simon Peter saw it, he fell down at Jesus' knees, saying, Depart from me, for I am a sinful man, O Lord. For he and all who were with him were astonished at the catch of fish, and they had taken. And so also were James and John, the son of Zebedee, who were partners with Simon. And Jesus said to Simon, Do not be afraid, for now you will catch men. So when they had brought their boats to land, they forsook all and followed him. So my first point, number one, is allowing Jesus to interrupt. So Simon allowed Jesus to interrupt his life. Simon was busy. He was busy with his career, his fishing career, providing for his family, trying to be a better fisherman. Just like us, we're busy with school, work, providing for our families, not the younger ones, but the older ones, and just with school and stuff. And let's read verse 1 to 4. So it was as the multitude pressed about him to hear the word of God, he stood by the lake of Gennesaret, and saw two boats standing by the lake. But the fishermen had gone from them and were washing their nets. Then he got into one of the boats, which was Simon's, and asked him to put out a little from the land. And he sat down and taught the multitude from the boat. So we see in verse 3 is the interruption where Jesus interrupts Simon. So Simon's here washing his nets, and then Jesus just gets on his boat and tells him to push a little from the land. A lot of us would tell him to, no, I'm busy, like, bother me another time. So Simon could have said, I'm sorry, I'm busy, ask another guy with the boat. But Simon allows Jesus to interrupt his life. So my second point is, Jesus interrupts us when we least expect it, or when we're very busy. When we get interrupted by God, what do we tell him? Do we tell him, oh man, you should have interrupted me last week when I wasn't busy with this? Or do we say that, I'm not ready, I feel like I have to get my life in order before you can interrupt me? So guys, we need to stop with excuses. We need to stop washing our nets. Your nets didn't die on that cross for us. It was Jesus. So we need to realize that. So I'm asking, what are your nets? What are the things that are hindering you from doing what God is calling you to do? So let's read verse 3 again. It says, Then he got into one of the boats, which was Simon's, and asked him to put out a little from the land. A little from the land. And he sat down and taught the multitude from the boat. So we see here how Jesus interrupts Simon with a little request to pull out a little from the shore. And when God interrupts us, when God interrupts our lives, he asks for small requests. God doesn't ask us for impossible things. Jesus didn't ask Simon to do a 360 with the boat and decorate it, paint it red. He didn't ask him that. He just said to pull a little from the shore. Alright, now I'm asking you guys, did Jesus know it was Simon's boat? Yeah. Because he's Jesus. So he asked him for the favor, and Simon obeyed. Guys, if we can't do the little things Jesus asks us to do, we can't do the big. That's how easy it is. So let's go to Matthew 25, verse 21. Alright, so can someone read it?
I
At the time, the kingdom of heaven will be like 10 virgins who took their lamps and went out to meet their bridegroom.
25,
21.
Oh,
His master said to him, "Well done, thou good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little, I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master."
Alright, so guys, we need to examine ourselves. Are we doing the small tasks we're asked to do like Jesus? If no, don't complain. Don't say, oh, no one ever puts me to pray, or Gabriel never tells me to put the salt out. She doesn't ask me for advice and stuff like that. We can't complain if we can't do the little things. God doesn't choose people with knowledge. He chooses people who are faithful. So, who remembers the book Ordinary People? It was like the most ordinary man. Oh yeah, Ordinary Man. Alright, Simon was ordinary. He was a fisherman. You saw fishermen everywhere. So, yeah, Simon was a fisherman, but he was a fisherman who allowed Jesus to interrupt him. Let's read verse Luke 5, 4 and 5. When he had stopped speaking, he said to Simon, "Launch out into the deep and let down your nets for a catch." But Simon answered and said to him, "Master, we have toiled all night and caught nothing. Nevertheless, at your word, I will let down our nets." We see how Jesus tells Simon to let down the net for a catch. So let's read verse 5 again. But Simon answered and said to him, "Master, we have toiled all night and caught nothing. Nevertheless, at your word, I will let down the net." So we see Simon's obedience and humility. That's humbleness, right? Alright, so how was he humble? Huh? Alright, so I got this from a study thing. He said that he let a carpenter tell him how to fish. That's how he was humble. Imagine Simon thinking, who does he think this is? This is the carpenter. You're just preaching. What does he know about fishing? So, and like, I put examples. I put like, that's Angelica telling Noah how to play football. That's me teaching Miguelito how to play the piano. And that's Kiki telling Emmanuel how to take a photo. and it also shows that in order to follow Christ, we need to be willing to learn. But Simon could have easily complained. He could have easily complained because what was Simon doing when Jesus interrupted him? He was washing his nets. And now he says to put down the nets that he just washed. Jesus is annoying, so right here. Sorry, but if it was me, I would have said, I worked all night, I'm tired, I caught nothing all night. Like, get off my boat, I want to go home to my family. So, I'm asking you guys this, when do fishermen fish?
Early in the morning or late at night.
Nah, it says during the night, they told all night, it's the night. The fish during the night, because the fish were in shallow water during that time. So when Jesus told Simon to fish during the day, it made no sense to him. So, and it's crazy how he still let down the net. Alright, and then my third point is that God will test you. It's not one test. A lot of people think it's one test. It's like repeatedly. So it's not you pass that one test and you're good for eternity. It's not like that. So God will ask us to do like unexplainable things, and doing these unexplainable things, we are going to experience miracles, just like Simon did. Doing this, he knew nothing was going to happen, but he still put it down. And doing risks like that is what's going to make us experience miracles. Alright, let's read verse 6 and 7. And when they had done this, they caught a great number of fish, and their net was breaking. So they signaled to their partners in the other boat to come and help them, and they came and filled both the boats, and they began to sink. So what did Simon experience? Gracie says it all the time.
Miracle.
Yeah, it was a miracle. Let's read 9, 10, and 11. Verse 9, 10, and 11. For if he and all who were with him were astonished at the catch of the fish which they had taken, and so also were James and John and son of Zebedee, who were partners with Simon. And Jesus said to Simon, "Do not be afraid. From now on you will catch men." So when they had brought their boats to the land, they forsook and followed him. So guys, what was Jesus calling Simon to be?
Fisherman.
Yeah, an evangelist, in other words, just like he's calling us to do. So we need to wake up and start washing our nets. when Jesus calls us, put down the nets. Even if he wants us to put it in the water, you gotta do it. So we need to do what God is calling us to do. We need to we can't slap God's hand every time he taps us on the back. We can't just be like, you know, when someone gets you guys for a good thing. You can't do that. We need to push the boat a little offshore. We need to have faith. We need to place the net in the water. We can't create excuses, because we can't create excuses. Not when we think it's ready, because it might be too late. It's when God says,